Maybe I should turn my headset on. Haha. Yeah, I think going forward I should get my headset turned on before I start. Give this a minute, see if anybody's awake here at 7:15 in the morning local on a Saturday, which would be a weird time for anybody to be awake. I've been up since 5:30. My brain popped up and said, "Your way." Maybe everybody's asleep. It is early. I got one. Aha! Somebody's up 0 dark 30 in the morning. I was curious about that. I am driving in Michigan on 94 South along Lake Michigan, getting ready to they're gone. That always happens. I get one and the one goes away. Oh, state line. Hold on, got a honk. Tradition. Indiana. Hold on. And there we go. Now we're back in Indiana. Hoping that Saturday eliminates the rush hour problem with the Chicago area, because every single time I drive through there, it's stop and go traffic, and it is maddening. And there's never anything that causes it, it just happens. Hey, Frankie Hodges. Hey, good morning. Yeah, I was wondering who's awake at this time of the day. It's 7:15 local. I just, like 30 seconds ago, crossed the border from Michigan back into Indiana, southbound on 94. And my target today is Waterloo, Iowa. I have a big, heavy crate of whatever the heck that is in the back. Technically, it's not due till Sunday, but I'm going to take it today because I'm already bored. And K.A. Elliott, hey, how you doing? Why is everybody awake at this time of the day? It's early, you shouldn't be up. Did your mother know you were out playing? So, I'm awake today, and I decided, yeah, this is, like I said, I'm going through the Chicago area, and the traffic is always backed up. Bumper to bumper, stop and go. So, we're going to try this now and see if this works during this time of the day. 94 to 80, and then west. I'm going to Waterloo, Iowa, is my ultimate goal. My uncle, who died in 23, he was a truck driver from the late 1960s until maybe 2014 or 15, when physically he couldn't drive anymore. He got to where his body just wouldn't do it. And back in the heyday with CB radios, and I have one, I'm relatively quiet now, but he said back in the day, you have all these drivers out here, and the radio waves were full. It's just a form of entertainment. And he said that the truck drivers would be out here solving the world's problems and having the answer to all the things that go wrong in the world. He said it was politics and the economy and race relations and just everything. They had the answers. Drive a truck, you got all the answers. So why don't you, go fix some of that stuff? Oh no, I'd just rather talk about it. So that's where I'm sitting here thinking out loud to myself. I just put up the heading on this one is Politics Part 2. I went, oh yeah, I'm starting to turn into one of them. I got the answer to all the questions. And politics on a major scale is kind of like wrestling. It's a performance. it's less reality and more pomp and circumstance. You watch a Congress or the Senate get up there on the podium and they start arguing with each other, and ranting and raving, and I hate this guy and this guy hates me, and blah blah blah. When the dust clears, when the lights go off, the cameras go off, they go drinking together. You know, they all hang out together because they all know what they're doing is a show, and they do it for the American people. And as I've gotten older, what I've learned is I strongly believe most people get into politics with pure intentions. They see a problem, they go, I really want to make a difference. Run for office, they become a junior congressman or congresswoman. They're full of piss and vinegar. They go, I'm gonna get here and get this mess up, and I'm gonna make it better. And then they fall underneath somebody who's been there for 25 years, and they go, okay, here's how it's played. You're gonna vote the way we vote and the way we tell you to vote, or you're not gonna last. And they go, well, how's that? Because to have power in politics, starting out, you have to be on a committee. The committee is 3 or 4 people formed to study / vote / push something through. And you have to get on the committee. And the way you get on that committee is somebody up the food chain appoints you to the committee. And that's what starts it. If you don't play along with whatever garbage they're doing, they're not going to put you on a committee. You're not going to have any teeth. You're not going to have any stroke, and you're not going to be able to do anything, and you're not going to last. And that's just kind of how that works. You're going to play along to get along. And the longer you're there, the more politicians have to go against what they feel, what they believe. They're going to start having to vote on things they don't agree with and following the herd. Because once remember, there's the two priority jobs for any politician: 1, get elected; 2, stay in office. Everything else is secondary to those missions. And that's where you get career politicians. They get their teeth sunk in, they're holding on tight, and they're going to bend and twist and make everything go their way. And it's kind of a sad state of affairs, but that's politics in America. At low level, city council and small town mayors, that doesn't really apply to them. I mean, it might on certain scale, but it's just when you get up in the food chain. And you watch on TV, you see a Congress or senator standing up on a podium giving this firebrand speech about this and about that, and yelling and screaming and hollering and pointing fingers. They got their charts. Spin the camera around. There's nobody in the room. They're just performing for the camera. There's literally nobody in the room listening to this. And politicians, and I don't care what party you're in, but politicians can tell you the truth and lie through their teeth at the same time. It's a power play. It's a skill. And I'll give you an example. So over here you got Senator Bob, and over there you have Senator Steve. And they hate each other's guts. They're in opposing parties. Senator Steve is at the office doing whatever it is they do at the office, and he gets in his car at 10 o'clock at night and gets T-boned by a drunk driver, gets knocked senseless, and he goes in the hospital. Senator Bob finds out about this, and he runs to get in front of the camera and says, Senator Steve was in a terrible car accident last night, and alcohol was involved. Is that true? Yes. Is it misleading? Yes. But it's getting the point across that Senator Steve is a horrible drunk driver, is what he's saying without saying it. Even though it's not true. So people will always remember, oh yeah, that was Senator Steve back 6 months ago. He got the drunk driving crack on. That's the game, how you can manipulate. So that's what politicians do. And there's a lot of people who don't like Trump for various reasons. And there's a whole bunch of politicians who don't like Trump for various reasons. And I think the big one is he didn't go through the process. He didn't come up from the bottom of the ranks. He didn't go through the pecking process where he owes his soul to the party or owes his soul to an ideology. he just appeared at the top of the food chain, and they can't control what he does. The Democrats can't control what he does. The Republicans can't control what he does. And they don't like that. I mean, it'd be the equivalent of just pulling some random person off the street and sticking them in there. Except this one is a very successful businessman. So he goes after what he's doing from a businessman's perspective. And that's what bothers, I think, the political spectrum, the scene, is they don't like having someone up there. And I remember back in 2016 during the primaries when they were running for office, they got 10 people up there on stage. Most of them are unknowns, and they ask them a question. They give this long, stereotypical, blowhard political answer with all the catchphrases and words, and basically when they're done, they've said nothing. And they would ask Trump something, and he would give a point blank what you or I would say as a response, and then the media, the establishment would just be taken aback that he would say something that brash as a politician. And then the talking heads would announce, well, he can't say that, and he can't do that, and he's going to lose all his support, and people are going to turn away from him. If you're wondering why I'm driving over the right side of the road, is because that. I'm trying to straddle that line. I don't want to run my tires over that. Or he would, hey, big guy, what's up? He would say something that you or I would say, instead of giving a big flowery answer. And then, like I said, the talking heads would go, oh, he can't say that. That's going to get him knocked out. And then he'd just move on to the next debate. People would go, yeah, that was cool. And then he would say the next debater, he would say something publicly, and the talking heads would once again announce, oh my God, he can't say that. That's so unpolitical. But people kind of like the point blank way he speaks. And he seems to get stuff done. And he said, I don't like it. Well, that's fine, but is he getting stuff done? Again, if you're old enough, you'll remember Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. Reagan was a good president. He was a really good president. He was the right guy at the right time. And Jimmy Carter was a complete bozo. And the fact that those two served side by side, their presidencies were touching each other. Where are you, I can't remember, where are you driving to? I picked up a load in Sterling Heights, which is the north suburb of Detroit. And it's a Sunday delivery, which is kind of weird, considering the distance, to Waterloo, Iowa. I'm carrying a crate, 1,200-pound crate of engine parts going to John Deere. Waterloo, the whole town is basically John Deere. And it's a Sunday evening delivery, but looking at my GPS, I'm going to be there at noon today, so I'm probably just going to drive straight there. I'm going to call here when I'm done playing on here. I'm going to call dispatch and confirm they're not going to blow a gasket if I come in early. And I will probably have to deadhead out of there because I don't think there's anything happening in that part of Iowa. This is kind of the edge of our, what's this guy doing? The edge of our zone of operations. So, like I said, when I'm done doing this little live stream, I'll go ahead and call. Yeah, it's one crate in here. I strapped it down, and I had one abrupt stop last night coming over hill into the sun. That guy. And had to slam on the brakes, and the load shifted just a little bit, and it kind of crowded off my living space back there. I wander around in the back. That's kind of annoying, but I can't just slide 1,200 pounds out of the way, so I guess it's going to stay right there until I get it out. But yeah, politics is a funny thing. And there's a provision I'm hearing they're talking about where politicians they're trying to make it so they can't buy and sell stock, which they're just going to have their proxy do it for them. But the reason behind that is they manipulate. If something's coming about, you're on a committee, there we go again, and they're going to say, well, we're going to buy this or sell that. I can give you an example. In the Vietnam War, they had the Hughes, I don't know what they called it, an OH-6 helicopter. It's the Hughes 500. Think Magnum PI, the little egg-shaped helicopter. That was a reconnaissance bird they used in the military during Vietnam. And it's made by, Hughes made it. And there was some question about changing brands to Bell, because the Huey helicopters made by Bell, and they went to Bell Jet Ranger, and there was some conversation about, maybe we should drop the Hughes 500 for reasons I don't understand. I mean, wrong with the 500 has a short fuel range, but that probably could have been modified. And so Bell Helicopter, they wanted to look into that. Well, enough politicians found out that, and I can tell you this, Gerald Ford, his wife, knew this was going on behind closed doors. She bought a dump truck of stock in Bell Helicopter. And then soon after, suddenly they announced, we're dropping the Hughes 500 for military use, and we're going to switch over. So they had this massive order for Bell Jet Rangers, and their stock shot up. And that's the insider trading that the politicians do, where they know what's going to happen. They can manipulate what's going to happen. That's why Nancy Pelosi has this catastrophically high return on her investments. And she can manipulate where the money's going to go, where your tax money's going to get spent. So when I finally retired from aviation, I pulled my 401k and I gave it to an investment guy down the road. And they said, where do you want me to put your money? And I said, anywhere Nancy Pelosi puts hers, because she gets by a wide margin the highest returns, because she's manipulating stuff. And that's, again, another perk of politics, is you get to maneuver things around like that. Politicians are allowed to travel at the taxpayer's expense. And they manipulate that. They say, we're having a conference with all the administrative assistants for the states. We're going to have a conference in Las Vegas. So naturally, they give themselves a plane ticket to Las Vegas, and they put themselves up in the Bellagio at taxpayers' expense, all under the guise of we're doing a formal function. There's a mayor or a deputy mayor. I live in the Houston area, and she went on a trip for representing the city of Houston or something to that effect, to Switzerland, of course, and somehow manipulated that. And it says in the rules, you can fly, you have to buy the cheapest airfare possible, but if you want to upgrade, you can pay the difference. Well, she didn't pay the difference, but she did put herself in first class from Houston to Switzerland. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to fly Houston to Switzerland, first class round trip? You want to throw a number out there? $2,000, $4,000. It's like 25 grand. Literally 25 grand to do that trip. And the taxpayers picked it up, plus her hotel, so she could go do whatever garbage she thought she was saying. And it came up. It came up in the local media about that pissing away tax money. And her comment was, it's not safe for a black woman to ride in coach. Apparently there's mobs of people back there hunting black women on international flights that I am unfamiliar with. But that was her excuse. It's not safe. But that's how politicians manipulate to better. That's why remember, step number one priority, get elected. Priority number 2, stay in office. And that's when they start paying all these little special interest groups and manipulate. It's a sad state of affairs. Can it be fixed? Probably not. I mean, no. It's a culture. You can't change a culture. But again, people wake up on a morning and say, I want to fix this, and they get into politics, and they get in there, and what happens? Same thing happens to everybody else. You fall in line, either you're going to do what we tell you to do, or you're not going to last, you're going to get voted out. And everybody just kind of falls in. And again, that's where the Trump phenomenon comes in. Trump doesn't need to play the way everybody else is playing, because he doesn't owe anybody anything. And that upsets the system. It's not his politics. It's not really what he's doing. It's that the establishment, president's only there 4 years usually. But the senators and the congressmen, they can be there 4 years. They're the people that make stuff happen or not happen. So a president's just a temporary stand-in passing through. And they are upset that they don't get to drive the bus because he's doing his thing his way. And that's where they don't like it. And I look at I'm watching, this comes across my feed. It's a constant stream of Gaza, what's going on in the Gaza Strip. And it's, everybody in Gaza's, they're out of food and they're starving. And I'm thinking, yeah, they're not running out of bullets. They seem to have plenty of ammunition. Just saying. And the people get up there and scream and yell and holler about, Trump wasn't there when the war started, but somehow it's his fault. And he goes and negotiates a peace deal. And then they stop fighting. The shooting stops. They were just, I don't know, bananas going on. But no one's talking about that anymore. They don't, okay, he did it. Let's not say, hey, good job. Just say, let's just stop talking about it and move on to something else. And, again, there's all kinds of political ways of changing things. When we were in Afghanistan, and before that dumpster fire that the Brandon administration called run away with your tail between your legs and leave $2 million of weapons on the ground. Wow. Trump had a sit-down with some honcho in the Taliban or whatever and had photographs of his house and his extended family's houses, aerial photos of his personal property, and said, this is where you live. You're going to stop shooting at Americans. If you kill an American, all these places are going to go away. And for 18 months, no Americans were shot in Afghanistan while Trump was in office. Again, that's not what... Where's that guy going? That's not how normal politics works, but it was effective. Just get right to it. And I kind of think that's kind of fun. Me, I'd never make it as a politician because I don't have the temperament for it. I also found out I can't be an instructor pilot because I don't have the temperament for that either. I'm a little bit opinionated. And I just kind of call it the way it is. And I have gotten it. I got somebody on my left, somebody on my right here. This guy trying to merge. All right. I was getting a picture there for a second. So anyway, like I said, I'm not in a rush to get to Waterloo today. I'm actually going 60 miles an hour. If I'm in the right lane, I'm going 60 and a 70. So I'm trying to save fuel with a 1,200 pound payload. I'm showing 22.4 miles per gallon in this van, which in my world is pretty good. This current run that I'm out here on is 3 weeks, and I'm 1 week in, and this has been the busiest week I think I've ever had. This is my seventh load, and it's day 6 right now. And I picked it up yesterday. So there's 7 loads in 5 days. This has been crazy. Usually you get like 3, 2. It just depends on the distances, but there was a bunch of short loads. So this actually turned out to be a really good week out here driving. When I was homeless last time, I had to spend a little money on the van. And I kept hearing at low speeds I would hit a bump in the left front end of the vehicle would rattle. The van would make this horrible rattling sound. When I took it to a suspension shop, I said, I don't know, I put new struts on. I go, is it a bushing or a gasket? He got no, it's fine. And then I went back out on a couple of weeks. It got worse. And I took it back. I said, dude, something's going on over here. Take a look at it and check my brakes while you're there. And he calls me and goes, oh yeah, you got a ball joint that's completely worn out. I'm like, well, thanks. So I got the ball joint replaced, and I had him do a brake job. And if you look at what I'm doing, I'm cruising on the open highway, so the brakes don't really get used. And the first time I was in this line of work back during COVID, it's like I got Christmas trees. Oh, just plants. So it's a little early for Christmas trees. And back when I was doing this during COVID, when my helicopter job shut down, I put 180,000 miles in the Ford Transit van I had then. We bought it new. And I bought a set of brake pads for it, and we pulled the brakes off. And you hold the pads up side by side, and you couldn't tell them apart. Because this job is 99.9% highway cruising, So the starter doesn't get used, the vehicle operates warmed up, and you don't use your brakes, so it's not high wear and tear. It's just what you see is what the van does all the time. So you can't keep fresh fluids, and it'll run forever. And so the brake pads, this brake job that was, because it's a used vehicle, it won't need another one as long as I own it. And I did meet a woman at our head shed there in Toledo. And the number on the side of your van tells you how long you've been with the company. And her number was super, super low, unlike anyone I've ever seen. The same vehicle, except hers was gray, it was a cool color. And she had 665,000 miles on hers. And the only thing she had replaced was a timing chain. Jeez. Because again, it's all highway cruising, which is this. All the time. I'm showing 23 miles to go on this heading to get to 94 west, which is getting us into the Chicago area. There's a pilot. Gas is pricey up here, by the way. But Illinois and Michigan, it's 3+. And the other day, I paid $2.02 for gas. And all of a sudden, I'm paying $3.19, $3.09 or something like that. Stuff's expensive up here. So I got enough gas to get me into Iowa, and the gas prices dropped like 30 cents a gallon. I'm curious where everybody's from that's watching this. Are you up early, or are you in the part of the world where it's not early? It's 7:40 here in Michigan, well, Indiana at this point. I'm just curious who's up at this time of day, because I come on here in the middle of the night and people pop up from around the world, and I kind of get a kick out of that. But this is Interstate 94. Wait a minute. Yeah, this is 94. Wait, is this 94? Yeah, I'm on 94 west, even though I'm going west. Okay, I am westbound on West on 94 west. I thought I was southbound. And up here, we're going to make a swing towards Chicago. This would be the first time, if the traffic actually flows, it's going to be the first time I pass through Chicago without having to go stop and go. And I'm hoping it is. And I avoid Interstate 80 in this area because it's a toll road. Between Cleveland and Chicago, for whatever reason, it's a toll road, and it costs something like $38. So I go to pains to avoid that, mainly out of principle. But the winter time is definitely getting here. It was 39 degrees last night. It is currently 45 degrees. I'm still wearing shorts though, because I always wear shorts. Ooh. Yeah, this has, if I go direct to my destination in Waterloo, it has me there. It says 11:38, so stop for fuel and whatnot sometime before 1 o'clock. So I just got to find out if I can drop today. Some places are weird about that. You know, they're ordering an expedited delivery and you can get it to them early. You think they'd be happy. Some places are like, no, we can't take that until fill in the blank. Like, okay. Kind of thought you wanted it. I'm getting it here early. My couple of examples of getting it there early, I picked up an electric motor weighing 2,400 pounds. I mean, on the crate, the thing was about waist high to me. And this giant used antique motor, and I put it in the back of the van and squatted under the weight. And I got barreling down the highway. I think it was out of Indiana, and I went to Kansas City with it to a Campbell soup plant. And it was a direct overnight. It was 800-900 mile drive, and they needed it like right now. So my delivery time was, I want to say 11 o'clock in the morning. And I drove through the night and got there at maybe 6:45. And when you make a delivery, you get to a plant. Some places are tiny, some places are huge. And you'll find out where the shipping and receiving is. And you can drive around the building. 99% of the time it's in the back somewhere. You look for the docks, then you look for the ramp, because I can't use a dock. I need a ramp for a forklift. And you can find there's a door back there somewhere, and you go in, and that's kind of standard procedure. So it's still sort of dark outside. I drive into this plant, I drive around the back, and I find the the loading docks and everything, and there's cars, there's like pickup trucks and cars everywhere. And I pull in, I leave the van running, I hop out, I grab my clipboard, and I walk in this room. And for 6:45 in the morning, there was an awful lot of activity back. There was like 30 people milling around in this room. And I walked in the room, and everybody stopped talking and turned around and stared at me. And I'm like, do I have a booger hanging off my nose or something? Every single person was looking at me. And I had my clipboard, and I said, I got an electric motor, and it was like you pulled a fire alarm. Everybody got excited and started running around in circles and started moving. And it turns out their assembly line has these gigantic motors that have been there for decades, and they never break down, ever. And this one, the one of them they had actually blew up. And they couldn't find parts, and they found this one replacement motor, which is what I had delivered. And I think the guy said, if I could be remembering this wrong, but he said we're losing $30,000 an hour in production waiting on that motor. So I got there 4 hours earlier than I was supposed to get there, and they were very excited about that motor being there. And that's one example. And another one was I picked up at a plant in Marshall, Indiana, that made computer chips. You remember back in 2001 and 21 and 22 when they were having a computer chip shortage? Well, there was a plant, and I was wandering around looking, just watching what they did. The machine, stamping out these little thingies, these computer chips, and they looked like Jolly Ranchers. And they were these each one was in its own little static-proof plastic bag, all attached together. It was kind of interesting to watch the process. And they come out on a spool. They got these, it's like an assembly line. They're putting them in boxes and throwing them down the rolling tabletop with little roller balls, and they're slinging them. And there's a guy putting stickers on them. One guy's taping the boxes, and one guy's throwing stickers on them just as fast as you can do it. And they would pick them up and stack them on these pallets, and the pallets sitting on a little turnstile on the floor, and then the pallet spins really fast and it wraps it in plastic. And I'm standing there watching this, and they get a single pallet, and they go, "This one's yours," and you load it. And there was 4 or 5 vans sitting there from different companies. They're just calling in everybody. So I get this single pallet in the back, and it was a GM plant, Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they said, direct, as fast as you get it there. And I set the cruise away I went. I got there the next day. It was like 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. And there was a line. All right, I got to deal with this guy. There was a line of trucks going into the plant, maybe 10 or 12. And I don't wait in line behind the trucks because I'm not cutting in line by going around them, because they're waiting in line for a dock, and I don't use docks, I use the ramp. So I drove past this line, went up to the front, and the guy said, "Do you have the chips?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Ramp 1. I went, "Okay." And I drove around, and I started to back the van up. Well, here comes a forklift, which never happens. The forklift does not get there that fast. Well, the forklift's coming down the ramp before I can even back up, and I'm like, oh. And I jump out, and I'm opening the doors real fast and unstrapping stuff. And I mentioned to the guy that I've never had the forklift get here that quick. And he goes, the gate guy announced on his radio that the chips are here, and a loudspeaker in the plant announced it, because they are so short of chips that they were shutting the plant down in 40 minutes because they have nothing else. They can't move forward at this point. And by you getting here, the time you got here, we can stay working. And I went, wow. That's, wow. He goes, that's why they're excited to have you here right now. So they grabbed the pallet, he signed me off, and he disappeared. But that's the nature of this job, is keeping everybody moving forward real fast. I've had, like I said, I have had a handful of incidents. They had a hurricane damage down in Louisiana, and there was a giant gas plant down there. And I delivered, again, a pallet of little mechanical, electrical thingies. I don't know what there was, out of Minnesota. And I drove way down into the swamps. This gigantic, my place was torn up. And I pulled in, and the guy said, "Park over there and open up." And I opened it up, and a guy jumped in the back of the van and started cut the box open inside the van. And there's a whole group of electricians standing around the back like raccoons waiting to get fed. And this guy started pulling these boxes out, calling out numbers, like serial numbers or model numbers. And he's literally tossing boxes to individual people. And they run off, scamper off. Again, like feeding raccoons, they all run off. And then he would call out more model numbers and throw them. And by the time he was done, all the people were gone, and there was this wreckage of this crate. And all its components still in my van, laying on the floor. And they all disappeared. And I went, well, that was interesting. So I had to go find the dumpster and empty all these packages and boxes and get the crate out. But that's the job. You know? That's the job this expediting job is you're bringing them something they need right now. Whereas if you were to order a regular delivery of something you can't put in the mail, something big, you order it from a manufacturer, wherever, and you need to get it over there. The order gets in, a local courier or a hotshot driver picks it up. Picks it up, takes it to a warehouse, and sits at the warehouse until there's enough things in the warehouse to make a truckload. And then a day or two later, a truck picks it up and drives it to the major shipping port, wherever, unloads it, and it sits on the dock until they can sort through it, and then a local hotshot driver or a courier picks it up and delivers it to the end user. How many days does that take? I don't know. But an expedite, which is what this is, an expedite goes to the manufacturer directly to where it's coming from. It gets put in the back of the van and it goes directly to the receiver. They don't have 3, 5, 10 days to wait. They need it yesterday. That's what my job is they need something right now. And the variety of what you carry in here is bizarre. I carried a whole box, 500 dipsticks one time, because the load of dipsticks they had were the wrong size for whatever line of vehicles they're putting them in. They didn't fit right. They were the wrong length. And they just said, we'll figure this out later, but right now we need these so these vehicles can get out there. Something weird like that. Okay, hey, I'm getting into Chicago right now, kinda, Evansville, Chicago, and I gotta start paying attention to my driving, so I'm gonna let you guys go, but thanks for coming in. I like to babble in the morning, it wakes me up, it helps me think the day through. But I'll catch up with you guys later, take care.